our screen. They can hear our voices, but they cannot see our faces just yet. We're going to click the sponsors in a second, and then we're going to jump right into the content today, which is going to be all about Evelyn and Thomas.
No, it's just about Evelyn. I'm not actually going to be talking this time. I hope you prepped a lot, Evelyn.
I was teasing Thomas because I told him.
Wizard things.
Because I told him, like, hey, good to see you, Robert Williams.
He was like, I've done nothing
good to see
all
you.
week.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope you're ready.
Oh, John never does anything ever.
I know, exactly.
Never busy, ever.
Well said. Hey, thank you for all of our fans already popping in. We're semi-prepared, and we're still going to have a fun talk tonight.
What are you talking about? I'm really prepared. Don't listen to this guy.
Well, I expected you would be. I said we, so it's an aggregate. I put you at the top end of preparation.
Yes.
I put Evelyn in the middle.
You are the most prepared.
And I put me at the bottom. So that's fair.
I am prepared.
That's your style. By the way, I also want you to be prepared to show any of your artwork or the different things that you do, your journals, your little illustrations. Anything that you want to show tonight.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's the only kind I make. So I really want all I really want all.
If y'all could see the eye roll I just gave him.
I think they all did the same. You didn't see it. World of Warcraft days kicked back in hard for a moment, no doubt.
Yep. Well, that's when I said I am.
You are not prepared.
You are not prepared.
You're not prepared.
And I wish I was Liam O'Brien. Am I right?
Yeah, right. Wait. Hold on. I'll show.
Do you have a soundbite of that ready?
No,
to go?
but I do have Illidan right here on my.
I need to actually pull up. Do that again. I couldn't even see you.
It kind of green screens out, but you can see him.
Oh, that's really cool.
Hello, Danny. Argo is looking so beautiful. I cannot believe how quickly that little hawk has grown. Thank you for the pics you sent this week. Happy Wednesday to you, Patrick. Good to see you. I'm so sorry about all your nat ones in our Discord, Pat. It's not your fault, I assure you. As long as you're not burying bodies beneath your basement, you cannot be blamed for the rolls that you're getting. Let's go ahead and talk about our sponsors real quick, and I only want to highlight really a couple tonight for sake of time. One, I did not show this video last week. I want to talk about Ferox Fabrications, but before all of that, we have not shown in a couple of streams our incredible Blue Box trailer made by our own Rory. We're going to be updating all these player characters. We've had a couple die.
One or two.
We'll get all that fixed. Brimstone. Vivi! No longer showing. Now Rin. All the Pat draws, custom art. Look at that. All of our amazing sponsors. And one of the sponsors you saw in there was this guy, Darren of Ferox Fabrications. You know you love the 80s vibe. You know you're dusting off your VCRs.
I love the screen tear that goes down at that.
Yep. Man, this gets me hyped every time I listen to it. Blast from the past is right, Josh. I'm still waiting for this shield to appear in my room here, but it is gorgeous. I'm sure he's not just taunting me with it. It is so amazing. Ferox Fabrications, phenomenal sponsor. And look, we shout out our sponsors so often here. We're not going to go through all of them tonight, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about Ferox, and then lastly, I want to talk about Troll Lord Games. They're the sponsor of the week this week, and I've had great conversations with Chuck. They are a phenomenal just friends to the show. They rate us. They produce great content. They've got Castles and Crusades and all kinds of free stuff that they make that you can adapt to any gaming system, but they're also just good people. And so make sure you're a friend and following and checking out and buying stuff from Troll Lord Games, makers of Castles and Crusades. We have our Castles and Crusades Friday Night Crusade special on our Discord, hosted by our own Phantom NJ on Friday nights in our Discord channel. And you can follow that here. Check it out. It's easy, no streaming, no drama. Pop in. We're running that in just 2 nights now. So you're saying, well, can I really play 2 nights away? Yes, you can. Absolutely. Jump in there. Play some Friday Night Crusades this Friday. Now, I have some fan art up on the screen right now. And we have lots of great fan art. Vivi, by the way, posted a wonderful piece of fan art for the goodest boy with an arm in his mouth from last night's stream. That was hilarious. But I don't know, there's something about the death llama that has tickled my fancies for the last... It's just like every time I look at this, I laugh. And so it's super, super fun. Then last announcement I want to make before I go to our great participants tonight. Of course, as always, we have Evelyn, Theater Evie, who is my partner here at Blue Box, with us on virtually every stream. I think she missed my Father's Day one shot with my family. Yeah, like that.
Okay,
not here for all of them.
But she, phenomenal, and she helps us on all of our stuff, our Discord. A lot of the things that you see, like this logo, this flyer you're seeing right now, the Shadows of the Unspeakable for our Saturday charity stream. She does this stuff. So she and I collaborate, we talk, and we agree on what we want to do, and then boom, she makes it happen. She executes. She is incredible. And then tonight we're joined also by Thomas. Now, if you don't know Thomas, I have one question for you.
What are you doing?
You should know Thomas. He plays Alcott Devereaux, Wizard Extraordinaire. Also has the Heart of Adventures podcast. Also makes incredible magic items and posts stuff on his Instagram all the time. And he knows how to play a wizard. I really wanted him and Rory, who plays Gimbal, to be on tonight and have a little tete-a-tete betwixt the two of them. But Rory had an understandable family obligation. It's tough to fire your family. But we're so glad to have Thomas with us tonight. And it's going to be a fun talk. Please make sure you're with us on Saturday. St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, one of the best charities you could be involved with. They help children of all types with every sort of disease you could imagine, including some of the rarest and most debilitating diseases. And they have incredible doctors, incredible effort that they put into helping those kids. And we want to support this charity. We've done it several times. Both Jay, Lord Gazumba, and I have supported this charity several times independently and together. And we're going hard after it this Saturday. So we have 2 streams here on Blue Box, our 10 o'clock stream, and we'll have a flyer with all of it here that we're working on. I've got Jay's flyer up here as well. Hang on. Let me pop that up. So this is the general flyer. It's the Bad Adventure fundraiser event for St. Jude Children's Hospital on the date. But we're going to have 3 separate streams. At 10 o'clock, we'll have Robert, Phantom NJ, formerly mentioned, who'll be streaming in the morning at 10, and that'll go 10 to 1:30, 1:45 Central Time, all time Central. And then we're kicking off with the biggest thing we're doing here at Blue Box, which is our Tailspire stream. Oh my goodness. And it has gotten, I was excited a few days ago. Evelyn can tell you, in the last 24 hours, this has blown up. I have many giveaways. We've got some old school Greyhawk, not just, I love these Lightning Source reprints. They're beautiful. But I've got some original 1E Greyhawk modules that we'll be putting up for our giveaway tomorrow, or Saturday rather. And then we've also got the Manda, Mystical Unicorn, has created some kind of special, I don't know exactly what it is yet, we'll see, but she's got a mini mini. It looks like it's got a good sized base, and she kind of voided out the area. I can't see what it is, but she's submitting it for giveaway. And I'm going to give away some other stuff I can't talk about yet. But you're not going to want to miss that stream on Saturday at 2:00 with the Tailspire community. We have the executives from Tailspire, Jason Roy and Johnny Ree. We have Ilstari and Dimungund, and also Don of Tales Tavern. And everybody's collaborating on their minis. And oh, by the way, Evelyn knows this. We got 30-something people. I guess it's enough to... So, if you don't have Tailspire, you're going to want it. If I have not convinced you yet that you want it, not in replacement of your minis in terrain, in augmentation of your minis in terrain, you want this tool. We'll be giving away some licenses on Saturday. And oh, by the way, they are creating a custom Blue Box charity stream early release miniature pack that will be associated with that charity stream on Saturday. I don't know exactly all that's going to be in there yet. It's going to be a handful of the minis that will be played. No. You got to be playing. Sorry, it's going to be the players of that, and maybe if we've gotten it in time, something for Evelyn and I as well. But the main thing is just great guys that are supporting all the stuff we're doing for charity, and it's going to be a blast. This Saturday, do not miss the charity stream for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. All right, with all of that said, it is time to get to the matter at hand. Before we jump into the topic of wonderful wizards and creative casting, and I have one of the top aficionados of this in Thomas with us tonight, I would like each of my guests to shout out their other ventures and their other streams. Of course, Theater Evie, she's involved with her own stuff. She's involved in Extinction Curse and anything else she wants to shout out. And then Thomas, his Heart of Adventure, I took a wound to the heart today, and I'll talk about that after Evelyn's done. So go ahead, Evelyn.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Evelyn. I am Theater Evie on Instagram and Twitter. And as John said, I am the right-hand goblin over here. So I'm on Blue Box all the time. But I also, outside of Blue Box stuff, I do Extinction Curse over on Machic Edie's channel on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern time. And that's a Pathfinder 2E adventure path that we're going through, where we're a bunch of adventurers who have joined a circus, and we actually just discovered who had been causing some of the ruckus behind everything on Monday night for our 4th episode. So yeah, we're also getting close to leveling up to level 2, so that's exciting. And as long as we survive. And then other than that, I'm a prop maker, and yeah, I do all sorts of cool theater props, and I'm currently writing a lot.
Well, no. Wait. Before you go, though, before you're done, when you say you write a lot, tell them one of the main things you're writing about, because I've talked to a few people about this, and everyone is excited.
Yeah, so currently I am writing, doing a lot of world building on a world called Aether, which if you were here last Tuesday night, you would have seen one of the parts of that in the Shadows of the Divine City one-shot that I ran. But yeah, so I am currently building that whole world out, getting the history of that put together, building my pantheon, getting just everything, all ducks in a row, so that I can actually run that starting next year. So yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Now, before we go to Thomas, I want to acknowledge a couple of chatters. Lots of folks in chat. Good to see Hager, Dingbat. Oh, Mitch, good to see you as well. Josh, thank you. A couple others I missed here. I saw, Anna B. Meyer. Good to have the map maker, cartographer extraordinaire. The one who is actually just really reinventing all of fantasy map making. And I'm wanting to put her in touch with the folks at Tailspire. I think we're going to make all kinds of cool maps that go both the traditional cartography and 3-dimensional cartography. It's going to be amazing. Doc Shoulder is downloading episode 1 of Heart of Adventure right now. How about that, Thomas? See, that's happening for you. Yeah. And we want to shout that out because he's a lot of fun. All right. Thomas, go ahead.
So I am Thomas Roberts, wizard extraordinaire. In real life, no. I am the editor and producer of the Heart of Adventure podcast, which has been going since March of last year. Just yesterday, we posted episode 27 of our podcast. We are coming up on the end of our almost 5-year campaign we've been playing in. We're only level 13 in that campaign.
They all started at age 9.
you jerk. But it's been a long time coming on that campaign, and it's been good stuff. And you can certainly tell that our DM makes comedy videos on YouTube for a living, because we really get into some fun stuff there. And it is a hoot if you enjoy not necessarily just 5e, but fun storytelling and serious roleplay at times mixed with just comedy. Come and check us out. And I also run the Tabletop Adventures Murfreesboro Instagram. I haven't touched it in a hot minute because I'm looking at doing some revamping and rebranding, because maybe that Murfreesboro on the end is a bit too specific.
Mr. Grantler, Chandler's in. Yes, Heart of Adventure will cure your boredom. That is exactly right. Chandler plays the amazing Markov on our Sunday campaign, and he is very, very talented. He actually carries the twain. Between Chandler and Thomas, Chandler is definitely the champion.
Way better.
Yeah, it's like those.
We don't even really need to role play anymore. John can just have a one-on-one.
No, it's like those old commercials where you had the bulldog and the little tiny chihuahua that jumped over the top of his back. Chandler is the bulldog and Thomas is the little chihuahua over his back. But
Chandler, if you want to hop on Zoom really quick.
Yeah, Chandler, you're welcome. Pop on in.
I can pop out.
Send him the Zoom link. I'll have to do a little bit of tweaking here, but he's welcome to join tonight. But all right, so Heart of Adventure.
And then Tabletop Adventures, which is something we will chat about tonight, because there is a lot of good wizard stuff that I've talked about recently on there that we can get into.
Well, I want to have a whole session upcoming on custom magic items and really bringing magic items to life, which is what you've done a great job with Tabletop Murfreesboro. And frankly, that's how he and I connected, because I was on Instagram and I live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, just south of Nashville, and I saw Tabletop Murfreesboro. And I'm like, this is not a big town, 100,000 people, 150,000 people. It's not, like LA. And I thought, well, there's another guy posting on Instagram about this stuff. And that's how we connected. So it's been a lot of fun getting to know Thomas. And it's going to be so much fun when I kill Alcott. All right, let's talk about tonight.
I'll cry, John, I swear.
All right, so I have your screen up now, Thomas. So we're seeing the player's handbook.
Ooh.
And tonight
some oldies might recognize this.
Wow. What did you just say?
Wow.
What? Wow. Shade already.
You are ensuring Alcott's death right now.
I ran an entire one shot with this man where I called him old to his face repeatedly. I deserve it at this point.
It's fine because, even though I'm old, I'm still virile and could beat the living crap out of you. So I don't mind being called.
I'm a stick. I will break in half if you look at me wrong.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Just started out a little fun. All right.
When the wizard taunts the paladin.
Look, in all seriousness, between these two. So Thomas, so my expertise, as everyone knows, I know old school systems, 1E, 2E, 3, 3.5, Pathfinder 1E. That's my expertise. I have done some 5E. I've played some 5E. I'll be DMing. Evelyn, am I right? Is this my first 5E DMing on Saturday? I think it is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because so my charity stream.
You've played in them, but
I played in
DM'd it.
2 or 3, I think. But it hit me today, like, you've never DM'd 5E. Oh, crap. So I'm doing that this Saturday for my charity stream with the folks from Tailspire, and we'll have the D&D Beyond plug-in on our Slobs account for Twitch. So I am like this deep in old stuff, like 3.5 and earlier, and I'm like this deep on 5e.
Yeah, so John, sit back and let me teach you a lesson.
All right, so I'm going to sit back. Thomas knew 5e only. That's all he had played. And
that's what Heart of Adventure was.
Right. And then he joined Blue Box and started playing with us. And as is his sort of inclination, he dove in, not knee deep, he's neck deep, eyeball deep.
Nah, I'm deep
okay,
I'm in.
He's drowning. So he knows 5e and 3.5 and older systems with spellcasting better than anyone I know. So Thomas, take it away, my friend.
All right. So as John mentioned, I have the 1E Player's Handbook up. I also have the 3.5 and 5E Player's Handbooks up for us to reference. But the main thing I wanted to start with was just looking at how spellcasting is worded in the original Player's Handbook. And it's very specific.
And you can go even wider if you like.
Over editions.
If you want to go a little wider, you can. Like the screen. There you go. Boom. You got it.
Boom. So the main sort of aspect of spellcasting in older editions is a requirement of verbal, somatic, and material components and the pre-preparation of spellcasting. And that was for any caster because the only casters that existed back then were wizards, and then clerics just weren't even a thing. It was just the fighting man, the spellcaster, and was there a cleric?
There was cleric. There was always cleric.
Okay.
There was always divine.
They casted spells in a different way, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
John?
So I'm not going to interrupt you much, but just to be clear, so there was divine magic from the beginning, and divine magic differed from memorized or arcane magic because the benefit for the arcane or the divine or divine spellcaster was that they would pray and restore a certain number of spell slots, but they did not have to memorize specific spells. That was always the trade-off between the arcane and the divine.
Mm-hmm. And so what John just mentioned there, memorize, when a wizard, in my head, when they are preparing their spells in older editions every day, they're setting aside a portion of a lobe in their brain where they have literally the spell, how it's cast, and everything ready to go in their head. All they have to do is just open up a little gateway in their head, and the magic suddenly flows from their body, and then the somatic and verbal components help to shape it as it's cast. So the casting of the spell could go entirely without any of those components if it is prepared correctly. You might remember in the game with, spoiler, Aemon's death, Alcott cast teleport with no components. He cast teleport as a quiet spell, which meant it had no verbal component, which meant it just happened. And that is a wizard specific thing in my head, but sorcerers are a little bit different. And this is something John and I were talking about, because sorcerers don't really prepare spells so much. They just cast them. They're not divine per se.
No, they're kind of the arcane
in newer editions.
Equivalent of divine. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's something we can look at, actually.
Now, while you're pulling that up, so I think a really interesting topic about components. So both components and even spell availability are things that can vary between campaigns with the same DM. Mm-hmm. I've done that. So you, Alcott, got teleport because as you were leveling up with my Rune Lords campaign, it was a little more forgiving or liberal, not in the political context, but in sort of forgiving context. And you were able to choose spells as you leveled up. Rory, who plays in our Greyhawk Awakening campaign, he can only select spells for which he has found scrolls or books to memorize from.
Mm. Yeah, and that's a adventure to adventure, DM to DM thing. And that also depends on, and this is a question we had in Discord, what is the deviation between sort of high magic and epic fantasy versus low magic to no magic campaigns? And how does that look when a wizard suddenly casts a big spell? Now, we have multiple times teleported into Fort Von Frost, and the people were astounded, but I wouldn't say afraid. It is certainly a medium to high magic setting, but there are other settings that are low to no magic, and any magic that occurs would be smote on the spot.
Right.
By
well, you can have low magic or even forbidden magic. Right. So,
yes.
I like the forbidden magic settings as well.
I do too. There is actually a campaign setting that I have created that is a modern take on where the Forgotten Realms went that I, at some point, planned to put John through because it's a good bit of fun. But it's this idea of we live in the modern world and everyone says that Bigfoot is real, but we know that he's not. But he actually is real, and so is Hogwarts and all this other stuff. So, like, if someone were to come up to me and cast Firebolt, I would be like, what the heck? We need to do something about this because we live in a no magic setting. You know, we don't live in high fantasy, despite the fact that the Avengers are a movie that we have. If an Avenger were to pop down at my feet, I would freak out. So I think
pitchforks and bonfires. That's right, pitchforks and
pitchforks and bonfires.
Oh, you've just hurt Patrick. Fraley17 did not know that the Avengers were not real. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to make spoilers happen on this show tonight. Please forgive us.
So Arcane spellcasters are limited to, in 3.5, correct me if I'm wrong, Evelyn, 3 different classes: the Bard, the Sorcerer, and the Wizard.
Of Arcane?
Yes.
Well, bards aren't really arcane casters. They can cast arcane spells, but they're not arcane, nor are they divine. They're kind of their own
best of both worlds.
But I think so. Am I wrong? And I could well be. To his point, bards have no access to divine spells. While they're not considered arcane spellcasters, to the degree that they can manipulate objects, they can use magic items.
Stuff, right?
They
do.
Bards can cast cure. Yeah, that's why Irda's able to cure things, because that's her bardic spells.
I stand corrected.
I guess they are a jack of all trades, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So this is an interesting point that we come to: is what is the difference between a sorcerer, a bard, a wizard, a cleric, a paladin, a druid? How are they able to cast their spells, and why? And one of my favorite explanations comes from, it might be Forgotten Realms centric, and it might have come beforehand. There is an ever-present sort of weave of magic that exists throughout the world. Think about it like the gravity fields. You know, if you've ever seen Einstein's theory of relativity, and you take a sheet and you put a bowling ball on it, and that represents sort of gravity. There's this ever-present field that exists around us, and you can manipulate it in very different ways. So a god has the divine power to bestow magic upon a cleric, and then they access the weave in that way that they are taught by their god. Whereas a wizard accesses the weave directly by influencing it where it's at, by using material components, verbal components, somatic components, and sort of shaping and adjusting the weave as they go. A bard influences the weave through sound and music or art. By the movement and the sounds that their body makes, they are able to influence the weave in different ways. That's why they might have access to things like cure wounds, whereas a wizard might not, because a wizard simply doesn't have that type of connection to the weave, that I would even say spiritual of a connection to the weave that a bard might be able to get when they're deep within a song. Druids, I would say, are more on the divine, but they're not innately given divine powers by a god. You know, they don't have to
so originally in first edition D&D, druid was actually what was the true neutral cleric. You could not have a true neutral cleric. You were a druid. So they are kind of that. They are very much divine, even though their divinity might not necessarily be tied to a god, but more to a spiritual connection to nature.
Yeah, so real quickly, on the chat,
I was reading it too.
Dave Dingbat said, I love the idea of magic being draining on the caster. Yes, in fact, Bloodwild had a comment in our Discord today I do want to talk about in a bit, which was this idea of arcane exhaustion. I've never seen that rule before, and I love it. Don't be surprised if you see it on Blue Box very soon. But then also Doc Shoulder said, it's a weird rule where magic user might be able to memorize a very powerful spell like Wish, but might not be able to memorize a low-level spell. What's that referring to? I missed that.
I think in terms of spell slots for the day.
Yeah, spell slots.
Oh, for the day, yes. Well, yeah. I guess that is kind of an odd idea.
This is a fun thing I would like to touch on really quick if we can. Let's look at the wizard spell table.
Only if you zoom in on it more.
In 3.5.
There you go. Thank you.
Has at 20th level 4 of every spell available every day, and that number can go up if they have a high intelligence modifier. Right. In 5e, intelligence modifier spell per day increases do not exist. The way it works for wizards, what is that, page 112? Probably have to go down for a bit. Oh wait, no, we are there.
Go ahead and zoom again, please.
Wizards, once I get there, I will zoom in for you. have very limited spell pools. They know one more cantrip, but they only ever get 1 8th and 9th level spell per day. And that will never come back unless they become 18th level or higher, because wizards in 5e, and this is why their spell pools are a little bit varied compared to older editions, have access to something called Arcane Recovery.
Oh, right, yeah.
So on your first short
Which
rest
I
on a
hate.
day, you can choose to regain a number of spell slots equal to half your wizard level. And so that's up to that level. So if I'm a 20th level wizard, I get 10 levels worth of spells I can recover. That's a 9th and a 1, or an 8th and 2 1s, or you get the point. And so that's where the balancing kind of comes out, but you have to cast those spells before you even get them back.
So when you said balancing comes up, you and I talked about this before we went live. Like, what would that balance out? Because clearly that's very powerful. A 1E mage through a 3.5E mage gets no recovery of spells. I mean, there are items and other things like spell storing rings and whatnot, but basic sort of abilities, they don't get spells back until they have a full rest. But you've made some comments about what you have in 1 to 3.5E mages that you don't have in 5E that you would need to kind of balance out.
Yes. So looking at the 3.5 mage, I believe you max out at 20 intelligence with 6 first level spells per day. A 5e mage only gets 4. Now, if that wizard is also 20th level, he could in theory get 10 first level spell slots back, but you can only get up to 4. And you can only do Arcane Recovery once per day. So I can put 4 of my spells into first. I can then get the next 4 in second level. No, I could get 3 more in second level spells, but I would have had to have cast those spells beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to be empty on my first and almost empty on my second level spells.
Right. And look, and I'm not saying that's OP, but just think about what you said. Even if you can only do it once per day,
Actually,
that
empty.
means... What's that?
Nothing, go on.
Oh, but even if you can only do it once per day, that effectively doubles your spell casting if you've exhausted those from a 1E to 3.5 mage who only gets it on a long rest. So it's not an insignificant ability.
Now, but let's math it out like this. First level spells for 20th level wizard, I get, if I do it only on my lowest level spells for Arcane Recovery, I get 8 first level spells, 6 second level spells, 3 third, 3 fourth, 3 fifth, 2 6th, 2 7th, 1 8th, 1 9th. Whereas a wizard in 3.5 gets 4 of all of them.
Everything, yeah.
Right.
So you're trading lower level spells for higher level spells, which innately, in my opinion, makes a 3.5 wizard much stronger. Being able to cast Wish 4 times in a day, or however other many spells, because you can also upcast prepare your spells at a higher level. So I could take a first level spell and prepare it at an 8th.
Right.
Whereas in 5e, I can at the moment upcast it, which takes up that slot that I won't be getting back unless I Arcane Recover.
Which comes back to our talk about balance, right? So I want to go to Evelyn here. She's been kind of listening in and offering some comments, but we agree, like, mages have gotten more and more nerfed through additions. If you went to 1E, those spells were super powerful, not at first level, but when they got to higher levels, and then it was kind of a middle ground in 3.5, and then now in 5e, exactly as you said, Thomas, a 20th level mage, which is, I don't think I've ever had one in any of my campaigns, but assuming you
quite
did,
a thing to see.
Yeah, but it would be a much better thing to see in 3.5, right, than it would be in 5e.
Oh, significantly.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So Evelyn, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that that definitely, like, with 3.5, you definitely get more of your high level spells, which kind of, I don't know, it just seems like there's a more even distribution of casting at that 3.5 caster.
So one other thing that I neglected to mention, wizards in 5e get 2 other, you might also notice there is a distinct difference in the tables here. This table is lacking some special stuff. You get a familiar out the bat, which is awesome. In 5e, you have to learn the spell Find Familiar to be able to get a familiar. So that's different. You also specifically how to scribe scrolls. They never distinctly gave rules on how to scribe scrolls in 5e.
Now, what are you saying that's different, though?
interesting.
When you say that's different in 5e, that you have to learn the spell?
There is a specific spell in 5e called Find Familiar that does not exist in older editions of D&D because you just became a class that got familiars.
Okay, so again,
in 5e, you could any class that has access to the spell can get a
So
familiar.
people in the chat can help me because I get my brain mixed up between all the editions. But Find Familiar was a 1e spell. So
was it? Okay, maybe I'm
yeah.
wrong. Then
But
what I'm saying is wizards at base level have a familiar no matter what.
Yeah. So no, in 1e. And into 2E, you had Find Familiar. Maybe that went away in 3.5. So all of you edition aficionados, I know it's in first edition. Thank you, Myamorph. But I think maybe to his point, it became a default ability rather than a spell in later editions, whereas 5e restores.
In later editions, I would have to prepare, cast, and take up a slot in my spell book even to be able to get a familiar.
All right, so I'm looking. So chat. No, it was not. It was never a cantrip. It was always a first level spell, as I recall in 1e, was Find Familiar.
So Phantom's question is, I think, actually what Evelyn was answering. Cantrips in 3.5 are limited. In Pathfinder, they are unlimited, and in 5e, they are unlimited.
Yeah.
Which personally, I think is how it should be. Because
these are cantrips.
Exactly. The whole point of a cantrip is that it is a small, minor magical effect that I can create. Even if it's a firebolt, I shouldn't have to lug around a crossbow with me just because I want to play a wizard who
exactly. I agree completely. Yes, I like that.
Like firebolt can be the exact same as a crossbow. It's just slightly flavored different. And I get that fire damage can be a bit more powerful than piercing damage.
Depending on the creature. And
that depends on the creature.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if you shot that at a red dragon, it would laugh at you. So.
And certain creatures are vulnerable to piercing damage, whereas they would be resistant to fire.
Yeah. It's all situational.
So I think cantrips should be always unlimited because that makes wizards more flavorful for me. But the other thing that wizards get in 5e, which I find very interesting, and I have literally never unlocked because it's level 18 and level 20, is spell mastery and signature spells. And this is something that I think should maybe be moved down in level because there was something that someone brought up earlier, which is if there are so many other classes that have access to spellcasting, don't wizards become kind of generic? I think if wizards were more of these masters of the arcane,
right,
then something like this at a lower level would make them more. I would want to play a wizard more. The cool. I'll read it for you. You can choose a first level and second level wizard spell that are in your spell book. You can cast those spells without expending a spell slot at the lowest level possible, an infinite amount per day. They become cantrips. You get a first and a second level spell as a cantrip, which is incredibly powerful. And that's why it's an 18th level thing. I mean, I understand. And then signature spells is basically you get 2 third level spells that you can cast once per day without using a spell slot.
Yeah.
And I essentially get 2 extra third level spells per day.
Now, look, when you're 8, I think this is great, but I'd really rather refocus the conversation on the levels that most folks play, because when you get to like 18th, like balancing 18th level mages and 20th level mages, I don't think any system does a good job of that.
Exactly, but this is my point, is wizards are very bland at least in 5e compared to the other casting classes like a warlock or a bard or a cleric.
Why is that? Like you said. I'm sorry. I want to, and I do want to come back. Phantom Robert had some really great questions in the chat. I want to come back to, but you told me something today that it kind of blew my mind, and it shouldn't have. It just shows how little I really know about 5e. You said the most powerful class perceived in 5e by most people is the most impotent class in most other editions, the bard. And you said bards are viewed in 5. Yeah, so talk about that, and that's really interesting to me.
I can actually visually explain it to you because we have the PHP.
Are you going to stand up and play a song for me?
I considered, I told you this. I considered making Alcott a bard and playing a bard, but then you told me you'd make me sing, and so I didn't.
I would. Yes, you're right.
Except Evelyn's never had to sing, but whatever.
Because I play a flute.
We won't talk about that.
No, but she plays the flute.
When was the last time you brought a flute into one of our games?
All the time.
I have one. I could bring it.
Yeah, okay.
I haven't played it in several years though, so you might not want me to.
Fight.
So the bard, the one thing that makes a bard, or I guess the 2 things that make a bard really stand out as a class are, we're almost there. Come on. Cleric bard, there we go, is jack of all trades and expertise.
Yep.
Jack of all trades gives you half of your proficiency bonus, which for those of you that are not 5e people is basically a generic bonus that you apply to skills with which you are proficient. Instead of adding individual ranks to skills, you just are proficient with them or aren't. And they then also gain expertise, which is essentially double your proficiency bonus to 2 skills of your choice. So they can be pretty good at everything and really good at 2 very specific things, and then also good at the other things they're proficient with. They're skill monkeys is what people call them. And they also have access to really powerful things like counter charm and magical secrets. And they also get 9th level spells because they are full casters.
Mm-hmm.
And they can take a subclass.
I hate that.
2 attacks
I hate
per
that.
round.
I hate that. I hate
They're
that. I hate
really
that.
good.
I hate that. I hate that. Like, to me, that would be the antithesis of the entire idea between class distinction. I believe a mage, a traditional wizard, who studies and spends his entire life immersing himself in the arcane tomes, or the sorcerer who is channeling the innate powers of the source. So I want to talk about Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time because I think it's a great example of what sorcery actually looks like. That could be then that same level of mastery. I don't even mind if the bard can cast the same number of low-level spells, but that a bard could access the same height of arcane or sorceress spellcasting to me is bollocks. All right,
no, totally agree. And that's one thing that I have discovered in the older editions of the game that make the wizard feel less powerful. Now, the one thing that I do like about 5e that differentiates between the older editions is when you pick the school of magic with which you are an expert in, if you pick one. In 5e, you have to choose at least one. And some of you guys might not like me for saying this, it doesn't bar you from 2 other schools of magic. And it also gives you some really unique and fun abilities that you can use around. Like an abjuration wizard, when they cast an abjuration spell, can abjure a small barrier against them that gives them temporary HP every time they cast abjuration magic.
Right, exactly.
It makes the individual schools of magic, in my opinion, more flavorful and unique because it is you as a wizard knowing very deeply how that type of magic works and using it to your advantage as you cast it.
Well, again, I want to jump in. That's a great point. I want to jump in the chat real quick, though, because we do that here on Blue Box. Eat to Surf said it was our old school showing that we felt like 9th level spells, mage spells for bards was our old school showing. But I feel like our 2 new school players agree that. Am I wrong? Do you guys agree with that? That it's like that's not what a bard should be doing. Casting Wish as a bard, casting Mordenkainen's just Junction, or doing these like super high level spells was never what a bard was supposed to do. Or am I wrong?
I will say I agree. Although Evelyn and I will both understand that a very specific bard, one of our favorite bards, needs 9th level spells. Critical Role's Scanlan cast a 9th level counter spell up against Vecna and basically won them the fight against Vecna while they were fighting.
Which is not the point.
That was a pivotal moment.
Very pivotal.
But what would have been the opposite? What would have been the opposite of the pivot?
They would have all.
The entire world would have been over,
which is a perfectly acceptable outcome in D&D, right? So I'm saying the pivot shouldn't have happened. They all should have died. Sorry. All right, I'll stop. Now, they all should have died, youngster. That was utterly wrong for that to happen.
and I will agree with you on that. And there are flaws in each of the systems where they could learn to improve from the others. I mean, I've never played 4E, but I have heard lots of people that like 3.5 and 5e just hate 4E because it just feels like a war game, and that's not really what D&D, in my opinion, was ever meant to be, which is hilarious because it came from a war game. It originated in Chainmail, which is by definition a war game.
That's right. Yes,
is meant to be a fighting game, but I think D&D has far surpassed wargaming and is now a collaborative storytelling role-playing game, which is why it's so great.
All right. Well, we have amazing chat happening. We got a big sigh from Jay. We got Anna V. Meyer still hanging with us. Thank you so much, Anna. But I think the definitive mic drop came from your own friend Chandler, Mr. Grantler, who said he agrees with me. Failure is a form of plot progression. It's not just plot stopping. But I tease. So let's come back to this leveling up and difference between classes. And we have about 30 minutes left before we need to raid Jay. And I still want to talk about how you cast spells, the role play of spell casting, a lot of other topics.
Why don't we talk about flavorful spell casting, huh?
What, do you want to jump to that
fun.
now, or do you want to talk? Because we still got 30 minutes. We got plenty of time. If you want to,
I could talk about this for 30 minutes. If you want.
All right, go.
The other thing I wanted to mention was just some slight different variations in the casting of certain things between the editions. And let me pull this up because I did find this interesting, and it's something that I had difficulty with when I was moving to 3.5 as a fan of Magic.
And while you're pulling that up, Jose, brand new follower here. Jose came in last night. He's Jay Ortiz on the chat here, and also won something last night. Thank you so much for sending it to me in Twitch. Evelyn, he said he could not find our Discord, so maybe if you want to pop that in for him again.
Right now.
Yeah, we'll pop it back in there for you, Jose. But he said he agrees that 4E would have been a great game if they haven't called it D&D.
That's what I've heard from a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. But I think Thomas makes a great point. If you go back to the old chainmail system, which is what Gygax and Arneson started with, it was very much a war game. It was tactical. It was terrain based. It was very sort of tabletop combat. The role playing grew out of that, and then it really became something as 1E grew into 2E and 3E. All of a sudden, role playing.
They named their company about that idea.
Tactical. That's right. Exactly. So it was like, I think our community is very protective of Gygax and Arneson and the legacy of the old school D&D. But the truth is, at its roots, it was a tactical game.
And sometimes at its roots, it wasn't very fun.
Well, it depends.
If you weren't in the
comparatively, like if depending on what you like.
Yes. Yeah. If you're looking for a role playing game, is what I mean.
Right. Yeah. It's like some people love that.
Magic in first edition D&D was just the spell is cast how it is cast, and there were no other things like concentration, counterspelling that weren't already built into specific spells, right? Like dispel magic and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't remember. So this is again part of my old man brain, I guess, but I don't remember when the concentration effect came in, but I've had that as long as I can remember. If you took damage while casting an arcane spell, you had to make a constitution check to be able to still cast that spell as part of your concentration against the damage. Which
is a thing in 3.5, although, as you just mentioned,
I'm pretty sure it was before 3.5, right?
Well, no. I mean, moving forward into the editions, it is still a thing in 3.5. It's just now there's also a specific concept called concentration for certain durations of spells. So, for example, a spell Alcott has access to, Major Image, has concentration plus 3 rounds. So once you lose concentration on it, the image lasts for 3 more rounds and then it dissipates.
Right.
In what's cool about 3.5 as it compares to concentration in 5e, and this is, I think, another example of nerfing of casters in the newer edition, is significantly more spells have concentration in 5e, whereas in 3.5 they do not. And the sort of crux of that is that you cannot concentrate on 2 spells at once.
Right.
I can't have haste and mage armor up at the same time. Maybe not mage armor. Haste and slow up at the same time on different targets. Those are both concentration spells in 5e, whereas in 3.5 they happen and they last. I think that makes wizards much more powerful, because when you get into something like what Ixen cast on us, Time Stop, and you just buff, you buff yourself a bunch and you get ready for the fight, and suddenly you have to worry about concentrating on 2 different things at a time. I recently made a 20th level paladin, and all of their smites are concentration, which means if I'm focusing on a holy aura that's around me and suddenly I need to smite somebody, that aura's gone and I'm focusing on this smite. I think that it is a significant nerfing of casters in the newer edition compared to 3.5.
Well, so I want to talk about that, but I really did not want to turn this into an edition war. I want to talk about but I think you bring it. No, but I wasn't pointing that at you. I'm looking at the chat right now, and people are blowing up. But I think that's a great point, Thomas, and you are clearly super knowledgeable of it, and I want to applaud you for all the research you've done. It's just coming through in everything that you're saying. But even this idea of I would prefer, for the remainder of our stream, let's not focus on 20th level. Let's talk about that 1st to 10th or 12th or 14th or maybe 15th, the top end, because balancing any system from 1 to 20 is a whole different beast. And most campaigns never see level 20. Now, it can be fun to play a one-shot where you have a bunch of, it's basically that you're back to Marvel
what's funny
superheroes.
is I'm actually preparing a 20th level one-shot for my friends for next Tuesday. I was doing it before this call.
Well, let us know. We'll put it on our Discord. But the idea when you do that is it's basically Marvel superheroes, right? It's like they are superheroes. But I think this idea of balance is so critical because, and I've made this point multiple times, so I'm going to put you on the spot, Thomas, because I know Evelyn will get this right. When you're balancing the mage, go back to 1E. Do you know how vulnerable a first edition mage was?
I mean, D4 hit dice.
D4. No armor beyond light armor that they could wear, like a robe that would not affect their spellcasting.
Well, yeah, that's still a thing in 5e is no armor.
Right, but you add the D4 to it, right? And then you had just incredibly powerful forces that could come against them. It was so easy for a 1E mage to die. So
I know that the numbers per hit in older editions are way bigger. Like Evelyn's got a plus 18 to hit on her first attack on her weapon.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Would be bonkers in a 5e game.
And Thomas, I want you to know, every time I laugh, I promise you I'm not laughing at you. I'm super impressed with you. You know that. That's why I have on. You're doing a great job. It's the chat. It's like, we only had D4 in that edition, and we liked it.
Most wizards didn't make it to second level in AD&D. Yeah, absolutely.
It's so
true. They
were
just glass cannons.
They were.
I think that's how they should be.
Well, and that's the point. Like, you paid a price. And this is when I think when you overbalance, and this is what you've called nerfing, which I think is a good term. When you overbalance, again, you make
overbalance
everything.
I like, because Bard has access to light armor and they have a higher hit dice, and yet they still get all the spells. You know what I mean?
All right. I'm getting rid of these bards I have in my Saturday game. They're done.
All right. So, with our last bit of time, why don't we talk about creative spellcasting?
All right, let's do that.
I made Alcott for 5e a long time ago, and with him, I made this. I actually bought, John, you might like this. I don't know if you know the company Field Notes. They make these really cute little, I'll say cute. This is cool.
I'm sorry, you said cute. All right, move on.
Notebooks that are normally meant for like...
You meant manly.
People, manly.
Very strong.
It's red. Look at it. It's manly. Notebooks that are mostly meant for like people who work out in the field doing like farmers and stuff like that. But they made a 5e book that has cylinder point and all of this stuff, and it has areas for every little bit of your character. Let me see if I can actually pull up the character sheet.
That's right, Tim.
Well. Look at that. There's a spellcasting table in it.
That's awesome.
And there's the character sheet that has all of my
Can one of you pop the link? Evelyn, maybe if you have a minute, if you can find that and pop that
Field
link.
Notes?
Yeah, Field Notes. That's pretty cool.
64-page 5e character journal.
So
it's made of really durable paper. This is cool. I like it.
Well, so it's been a long time,
to
Thomas, since I played a mage. Well, honestly, I can't remember the last time I played a character that wasn't in a one-shot. But, whenever I played my characters through the years, I invested in them. That was very similar.
Too.
I was very much like you. I would pour tons of research.
Of Tiger's Eye dice to play this character.
Custom dice, custom artwork. If I played a mage, I had... Kizixtre Toxino Maxazi was my drow mage, and his nickname was Toxin. And I had every spell listed out, and I had all these, I think that's a great thing for role players, so that's super, super fun.
I dropped that link in the chat for anybody who is interested in that.
I love this. I made unique little
Put that
arcane
closer. Let
symbols
everybody, like, a little closer, so everyone can see it well. Wow, look at
for
that.
each
That's
of these spells. I also hand wrote with my really horrible handwriting. Wow, you guys are getting a good look at that.
I think
the
you're feeling
words-
threatened by Chandler and Evelyn, is what I think.
You might actually notice Veneficus Tellum, which is what Alcott says when he casts Magic Missile. One thing that I think, and Chandler and I have been talking about this recently, combat in a war game is fun because it's combat. Combat in an RPG is fun because you talk about what happens as it happens. Role-playing your combat is, I think, just as important as role-playing a conversation with an NPC. Because otherwise, you're just going to be sitting there waiting for your turn, bored, and then you're going to lose interest in the thing. And when it comes to spell casting, you have so much room to do so much fun with just magic. Like if you noticed in the last session, Irda cast Scrying,
Right.
and then Alcott cast Scrying.
On two
And
separate
they were
subjects.
very different castings
Right.
of the spell. I think from not only from class to class, but from wizard to wizard or sorcerer to sorcerer, the words they say, the way they cast,
I loved it. Yeah,
and it should be.
And even to the point where you ground the pearl in the wine, and Cade wound up trying to drink it.
And I was like, that's going to be really gritty and not good.
Yeah, no, that's so much
certain
fun.
Campaign settings, they sort of limit the role playing of magic. For example, I believe it's Dragonlance, where they have a language, which I actually talked about in one of my recent posts. Yes, I think it is. Dragonlance, the language of low magius.
Can you zoom in on that just a little bit more?
I might be able to.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is a very specific language that wizards have to speak to be able to access and cast arcane magic. In my example, it's just something for you to use as a reference point for you creating your own verbal components. I personally use Latin because Latin just sounds magical.
It does. Yeah. No, I've like you've done that a lot, and
Latin,
honestly, I sanction that in any of my games. Latin is the default language of all spellcasting. Now, if you do something, if you can speak native Russian, I'm fine with that. But I love it when you bust out the Latin for your spellcasting.
Yes, and Jujuritz in chat, Leviosa.
That's Jose. That's Jose.
Good example,
Yes.
because that's what she used when she made Harry Potter. It's all Latin for the most part.
Ish. Yeah.
Ish. It's Latin with a twist. Obviously, I put twists on the words that I use when I make them, because not Latin wasn't a language meant to say the word mage armor, but you know, it can. Another example from the video game Diablo 2, they had a lot of rune words, these individual little syllables and words that were spoken out loud, and when combined, they produced effects or gave certain enchantments to items. You can find examples of the things that you want to use for your verbal and somatic and material components anywhere. Some of my favorite examples for material or somatic components, Doctor Strange is just good because it's just fun seeing these guys like cast weird magic-y bits with their hands and just come up with how you think someone would move their body when they cast a spell. And it doesn't have to necessarily be individual finger movements or hands. It could be your entire body casting a spell. Like a monk could, well, maybe not a monk as an example, or a really cool cleric could punch and cast guiding bolt.
No, okay, all right. So
they reach back and a hammer appears in their hand and they throw it. That could be their.
I'm going to pause you a second here because I do want to have a completely separate LMA with you talking about magic items and creating magic items and balance in games.
Yes.
But you're talking about this idea of creative spell casting. So we call this Wonderful Wizards and Creative Casting. I have two phenomenal casters here. One was played only divine casters on my stream. I don't think you've ever played an arcane caster, Evelyn.
Other than a bard being half.
Well, she got that a little bit, yeah, which is not.
But
3.5.
she really leaned hard into the divine side of things.
So but she has also come up with wonderful ways to cast creative spells. So I want each of you to think. I want you to give me your best example, and I want you to role play it for me.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I know. So I want you to
Are
role
you going
play.
to drop a spell on us?
No.
I know the exact time I'm thinking of, and it's actually from my cleric and
Exactly.
not from Irda.
I don't want you to tell me a hypothetical. I want you to replay, Thomas and Evelyn, something from one of our games that it gives an example of how you cast a spell creatively. While you're thinking, I'm going to go back to the chat. I want to call out a couple of folks here. So many people with the comments. The chat is great tonight. Thank you. You guys make it so much fun. There was Mr. Grantler. Thank you, Chandler, for keeping it real. That was a solid point. The Orc Shoulder, yes. Hager, Scott. Thoughts on difference between, oh, yes, At Will Magic, Scion. Oh, gosh, we didn't even get into that. I do want to talk about that because we have a few minutes left. Let's
that's
talk.
a 4E thing.
Well, what is?
At will magic and stuff like that.
Well, I've always thought of sorcery as at will magic.
At will in.
Yeah, sorcery is at will. Psionics are 1E. I think that's a great topic.
And like I can cast detect evil at will as a paladin.
Yeah. All right, come at me, Thomas. All right, so sorry, move on. Just teasing.
Way out of my wheelhouse. What's a psionic?
I have eaten. What's a psionic?
Not
All
a
right.
5e thing.
I am Lightfoot, and I'm sorry. You've been with us for a while, and I did not notice you before. Thank you. So in 1E, Gary didn't even want to give MJ magic milk. That's so true. That's exactly right. I speak drunk redneck when I cast. I like that, Pat. If the group kids
but that's the thing is like for me, if you're gonna make a character, pre-prepare kind of the stuff that you want to say, because coming up with it on the spot, you're suddenly going to find yourself locked into saying that over and over again.
Right. No, that's good. But I would say, and this is more as a DM too, I guess maybe I'm exposing not exposing myself, wrong term. My style, exposing my style. I pre-prepare stuff, but then always leave yourself room to
Absolutely.
riff. I was taught long ago, if you play an instrument, learn the fundamentals first. You want to riff, you want to shred on that guitar, that's great, but don't do it till you know the fundamentals. And I would say the same thing with spellcasting. Know your spells, know your components. I do want to still talk about components or not components in your game, but
Yes.
riff once you have the basics of it. And that's what I think you, Evelyn, and Rory have done in spades. So I have not forgotten. I'm coming to you in a second, but let me just finish some of these chat things because there's so much good stuff in the chat tonight.
One thing I will say about riffing is having that base of preparation allows you to more easily adjust and riff. So
That's
at least
the
know
point.
A little bit about what you're going to do.
That's the point. Yes, exactly.
Well, and most of the time, it's a caster, once you've been playing your character for a while, you have kind of a set group of spells that you tend to be your go-to ones. So you get comfortable enough to sort of play around with them more than you occasionally might throw a different one in there, but the ones that you're really comfortable with, you can kind of jazz them up and spice them a little more than you might do initially.
Exactly. And we've got Jason Zavoda on here tonight. Asher, thank you so much. We've got a lot of these moose. I've got a lot of these old school. I'm not calling you old guys. I'm just saying you're Greyhawk people. Old school role players on with us tonight, and they're blowing up the chat. So thank you so much, everyone. I do want to talk about Bloodwild's tweak if we have time, but let me come back now. You're not old, guys. Gray hair. I mean, Greyhawk. Oh, that's awesome. All right, give me an example of spellcasting roleplay, and I'm going to start with you, Thomas.
Okay, so if we're talking about riffing on a spell. Metamagic is something wizards in 3.5 have access to, and Alcott has, I believe it's maximize spell. Or no, I cast Quicken spell.
Quicken, yep.
So I cast 2 magic missiles at the same time. He grabbed his staff only by the thumbs, lifted it up in the air, and then slammed it down while grabbing all of his fingers down on it, each individually producing a magic missile at the tip of the staff that shot out. And as he did, he spoke Veneficus Tellum, which cast the magic missiles and threw them that went through his major image arrows and hit the enemies when we were defending Fort Von Frost. That was one of my favorite moments being a wizard. It just felt so magical.
I felt it. Well done. And yes, and I like that because that's a good example. as you get fighters that level up, and they get to, so right now in our Rune Lords campaign, that's the highest level campaign that I'm running on a weekly basis, or have ever run on a weekly basis. Characters are getting to 10th and 11th level. That is super high. You think about what a fighter can do, what a barbarian can do, what a paladin can do. Giving the mage the ability to do 2 magic missiles with a quicken spell is not overpowered, and I thought you roleplayed that super well. All right, Evelyn, give me an example.
All right, so I need to do a little bit of explanation before I do this, because a lot of people probably has not seen our 4th Age campaign because we have not streamed it a ton. But I have in that 4th Age campaign, I play a cleric of Esta, who is she's the goddess of healing and boon in Tolkien lore. She's one of the lore, but my character specifically, she is a high elf, a Noldor elf, and she speaks in between Sindarin and Kenya, both of the Elven languages. She chooses, given the depending on her audience, she chooses the language that she speaks. Well, one of the things she frequently does, because her deity is in fact Elven, is that she speaks in Elvish anytime that she casts any spells that call specifically to her deity to help her. And one of these is when she casts prayer, she'll grab her holy symbol and she'll say Angel ni nato hiriuin, and that is actually calling out to it is a prayer asking for help in Sindarin, to cast that prayer across the party and help both give her party advantage and the enemies the disadvantage that is built into that spell. I
love that. So you guys both killed that question. Well done. And look, that's kind of the point, is whatever you're playing, put some fun into it. Put some role play into it. I don't care if you're playing a sorcerer. It doesn't have to be banal and just sort of boring. You can make everything sound fun and different. Now, the talk about psionics is popping up, and we're not going to get into that too much tonight, but what that shows me is we need to have an entire episode of Loremaster's Arcanum talking about psionics versus magics, because psionics are a very different thing, and there's a reason for them. And Moose had some great comments in the chat. So there will be an upcoming LMA stream. We'll get some guests on talking about psionics, and all the psionics handbook in 2E was awesome. If you go back to my Dark Sun world, which is a favorite of mine, Dark Sun was rife with psionics. I've always thought of things like intellect devourers as being psionic beings. So these are great subjects for us on a different day, though. All right, Thomas, bring us home with our last few minutes. What else would you like to talk about, or what other questions have we not addressed from the Discord? Because we had some great questions in the Discord.
That's actually a good question, John. One thing you brought up for a little second there was material component use.
Gray hair awakening. I don't want it to. No, I've got lots of young people falling in love with Greyhawk. Stop that. Stop that. Everybody can love Greyhawk, not just gray hair. Stop it.
Low magic. We talked about low magic. We talked about the difference between sorcerers. Oh, one thing that I like personally about 5e is warlocks. I love warlocks. I think this idea of oh, my sweet dog and cat are in here, and they're really letting me know that I've been talking for too long to people. They're like, Thomas, come feed and give us love. Ricky, it's okay. It's okay. Warlocks, I like this idea of so you've got a cleric as a divine caster because a god gives them power. I like the idea of a warlock being an arcane caster because a powerful arcane being taught them, shoving a book into their brain, how to use magic in very unique ways that are sort of twisted to the way magic normally would be. Like Eldritch Blast being a good example of a twisting of Firebolt, that some eldritch being changed up and moved. And then any thoughts on that? I'll let you speak.
Go ahead, Evelyn. All right. Come on, I always have thoughts. I want to make sure.
I mean, warlocks seem cool, but I haven't ever played one, so I don't know a ton
They're just
about them.
really customizable and fun, and I have a lot of fun with it.
All right. Yeah. So I sorry, I had my slide up for a second. I'm back on yours now, so they can see what you're doing. By the way, if anyone's wondering how we're doing this, I always like to help other streamers. I was actually taught this by Demon Gund, who will be with us on Saturday during our huge Tailspire stream. That's a 2:00 stream in the midst of our amazing, and put this back up here. A stream we're doing all day for charity for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Lord Gazumba and I, we have a stream at 10, at 2, and he's at 6 Central. So there'll be a little overlap. Actually, he's at 5 Central, 6 Eastern. So there'll be a little overlap between my last stream and his. But it's basically from 10 to like 10 Central Time, all day D&D, and every cent that's given will go through Tiltify and go right to St. Jude's Children's Hospital.
Awesome stuff.
And it's going to be a fantastic, fantastic day. Now, with that, as you're talking about these different elements of spellcasting, and as you're looking at psionics and wizards and the impact on the game, I would like you to address for us this idea of how you balance the preparation of spells, Thomas, against things like fighters and thieves and other classes that don't have to do those things.
So that's actually one thing that I like about the rogue in 5e is they have this inbuilt buff that a lot of people don't talk about. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can hear my dog. My wife just got home.
Kill them.
I'm going to close my door really quick. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. While he's doing that, thank you. And there's all these gray hair comments. I totally feel attacked. I feel very young for my age.
Don't, John.
But don't feel attacked.
You don't have a single gray hair in your head.
It's just appropriate.
So rogues have this inbuilt buff that's like short rests are a thing in 5e, and rogues don't get anything back on short rests. They have nothing to lose on a short rest. So a rogue can scout ahead for the party during a short rest, or they can do other things that the party wouldn't be doing during a short rest, whereas a wizard has to sit there and arcane recover to get some of his spells back, or a warlock, in this case, gets all of their spells back by, invoking their patron in some way. Each of these classes have their own little things, whereas what's it take? An hour after a long rest for a wizard to prepare a full day's worth of spells in their head. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Well, I mean, technically, there's no such thing as really a long rest there's just a full rest, and that can only occur once every 24 hours in your older edition. So,
and an hour of that has to be preparing spells if they're all new spells.
Exactly, that's correct. Yes, exactly.
Which I think is a very cool idea, and that's something that can be. And
I would take longer to prep than that 1 hour, depending on if I had a 9th level. Yeah, I'm memorizing 9th level spells. So that's something that, you've got old school systems. Some of them, like 1E, didn't have a ton of guidance around that. But yeah, the idea was without a full 24-hour period and a full rest, you would not rememorize your spells.
Mm-hmm. Which you'll find is different in 3.5. You'll find is different in 5E. And that just depends system to system and where you're kind of playing at. A difference being, rangers and I believe druids. No, druids can re-prepare any of their spells.
Yeah, druids are basically clerics.
Rangers, however, have a limited pool of spells that only upon leveling up can they interchange and add to. They can.
That's in 5e.
Yes, that's a 5e thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say with Ranger, the way it is in Pathfinder 3.5, you can change which spells you have. Yeah,
so in 1E, 2E, 3.5, Rangers, when they get their spellcasting ability, they're basically clerics, but much lower level cleric abilities. So they treat it like a divine spell, and it's much like a druid. It's it's coming from nature. So whether nature is the god of nature or it's the force of nature, that all comes directly to that druid or that ranger, and it's not nerfed in any other way beyond just the level and the number that they can cast.
And in 5e, you have this inbuilt thing called the long rest that can sort of limit that flavor of spell preparation. But if you're suddenly awoken in the middle of the night, you're not going to have spells prepared. Or if you're in the middle of your spell preparation, well, that sucks. You need to either find the 30 minutes later throughout the day, or you're just not going to have those spells prepared. And I think that that's something as a DM that you can use as a storytelling tool, sort of interrupting your players. Don't do it all the time, obviously, because then you're just a jerk.
I never knew that. Evelyn just said that Elandra gets her spells from Phineas. That's super cool. I love that. That's a really neat way to do this. So if Phineas were to die, or for example, be lobotomized. No,
I was joking.
Okay.
It's a joke.
All right. Hey, all right.
So really quick, last
go ahead.
point on you mentioned material components.
Yes.
Material components are always consumed by spells in 5e unless stated otherwise, or in older editions unless they are focuses, or I think that they're called, it's not a focus, there's another word for it. There are 2 different types of other materials that you have to have. The prime example being that I was so glad that we didn't have to have another one every time, is in scrying you need 1,000 gold piece mirror.
Well, all right. So
that would be horrible if you had to get a new one every time.
Well, so let me jump into that real quickly, because I do want to touch on that. And by the way, first of all, I see Patrick, Canadian Ancient Gamer. I don't know if he knows how often I've shouted him out, but he continues to send great materials to both Jay and I, and maybe some others. I'm not sure who he sends them to, but I know he sends them to me, and I know he sends them to Jay. These Lightning Source reprints are just absolutely gorgeous. I just gave this guy away last night. This Treasures of Greyhawk from Lightning Source. These are reprints of the old school stuff. This all comes from Canadian Ancient Gamer, and Jay and I, we both benefit from this, and we send it out to all of our fans. So thank you so much. Now, quickly, in summary, yes, this idea of rest, memorization, amount of time necessary is critical for spellcasting. The type of spell, divine, this idea of bards in 5e and what they can do, that just blows my mind. I am utterly stunned. The chat is absolutely blowing up tonight. Thank you, everybody. I do want to say also, if you're wondering how, Thomas, go ahead and you go ahead and move around on your screen so people can see what I'm referring to. If you're a streamer, any of you out there, Jay, I don't know, Jay may have had to bounce already because he's getting ready for his stream, but we can share this with him. There's a great tool called OBS Ninja. OBS Ninja works for slobs, I think XSplit, I'm sure, OBS, and it allows anyone to provide a URL that links to their screen share, and then you can drop it into your Twitch, or into your slobs or your XSplit. And here at Blue Box, we're not about just hoarding the stuff that we do. We like sharing it and helping other streamers. So any streamer out there, if you want to know how to bring a guest in and let the guest control, not the whole experience, but just what they're showing, OBS Ninja. I got this from Demon Goon, John Fuller, who's going to be with us on Saturday for our Twitch stream for the charity for Tailspire, and it is a fantastic tool. OBS Ninja. Everybody check it out. No, I don't have a sponsorship from them. I just like sharing cool stuff. All right, final words. Thomas, then Evelyn, I'm going to let you wrap us up before we raid Jay.
And do you want me to... I have a fun... Here, everyone. Heart of Adventure podcast is a great thing. If you are getting into podcasts, don't know anything about podcasts, you might as well start with Heart of Adventure. You can visit us at hoacast.com. Oh, I love this beautiful website every time I come to it. I personally made this website using Wix. We're not sponsored, but hey, it's great. We've got lots of info on here, backstory of the world, some maps that our DM made in Photoshop. We've got character art of characters that I had made, along with full backstories of the characters and current stats of the characters. You can find all of the episodes here. If you're a masochist and like listening to podcasts in a browser on your computer, then go for it.
Does anyone do that?
If you're not a fan of hurting yourself, you can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, iTunes.
Listen to it on your car, on your way to work, on your way home.
If you find a spot that you can't find us, let me know, because I'll get it on there. That is the website. That is us. If you do listen, give me a shout in the Discord. I'd love to know more about what you thought about it.
No, and
I put a heck of a lot of work into this.
No, that's right. Chandler just said the same thing. And honestly, you guys just get a little exposure to Thomas today. And then if you've watched our Sunday streams, no, Evelyn, don't smile like that. I did not say the same thing. He's not exposing himself. I said just exposure to him. I saw your smirk. Don't do that. I'm teasing. But he is such a dedicated role player. He spends so much time preparing. He comes every week with an intensity and a desire to play a great game, and he pours that into Heart of Adventure, everything he does. I would not say this if it were not true. Hopefully everyone that's followed this channel knows I rep the real. I don't push anything that's not real, and Thomas is real. So please check out Heart of Adventure. Give him a follow. Check him out on our Discord. If you're not in our Discord, please pop in. All right, Evelyn, you have the last word. Why do you always, even when I warned you do this to me? All right, are you done?
Magic.
It's magic. All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and...
Prestidigitation.
Prestidigitation.
No, what does Kate say? Presti.
Presti.
It's your presti. All right, so let me get ready to raid here, and as I'm concluding...
Our camps are all off.
We've been destroyed.
Oh, what did I... Wait, why? What? Huh?
I think you accidentally did.
I clicked a different view. There we go.
Shift.
Yeah, wrong one. That one's the one I want. There we go. Sorry, everybody. Hey, I'm just trying to make Jay... I'm trying to make Jay feel better that he's not the only one that pushes wrong buttons. Once every few weeks, I'll press the wrong button as well. So we're going to raid Lord Gazumba. I want to say thank you again to all the mad chatters. You guys are awesome. We had 60-something, I think, tonight, which for an LMA is a really good stream. Thomas, you brought them in. It also was probably a bit of our addition wars and just Evelyn's always awesomeness. But the chat was so much fun tonight. We love all of you. Again, follow Jay. If you're not already a follower, what are you doing? My goodness, you should be. And then be with us on Saturday, the huge charity stream for Tailspire on Tuesday, on 2 o'clock rather, Rob at 10 o'clock on Saturday, running his stream, and then Jay that night. All of it goes to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Bring your money, bring your attention, bring some fun in the chat. Let's have a great time. Blue Box rating Jay, Lord Gazumba.
Bye, friends.
Bye. That was fun.
Yeah.